Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Rocket City Yardstead. It is a beautiful October day. I feel like so many of the YouTube channels I watch, I'm seeing everybody walking around in hoodies and sweatshirts, jackets, but it's still in the 80s here where I live. And some of my plants are loving this weather. So I thought maybe we would make a meal together today, come out to the garden and harvest some of what I need. Y'all, I showed in my last garden tour that my eggplants are just going crazy right now. And I have some beautiful ones, so I thought it was probably time for some eggplant. Isn't it a gorgeous eggplant? There's more in here. Let's see if we could, there's a little one back there. So if we look at my other couple of plants, they're just everywhere. You can see we're still dealing with lots of flea beetle damage, but the plants are happy. Oh, look right there. I don't love seeing all those ants on the eggplant flowers, but I love seeing the flowers. Oh, y'all, maybe we should have picked that one. It's huge. I don't really need 2 eggplants today, but I don't really like to let my eggplants get bigger than this, so I went ahead and picked it. But isn't it gorgeous? They are just so beautiful this time of year, and this happens every year. We get to the very end of the season and my eggplants just put on a ton of fruit. So I'm really excited to have these. The next thing I need to get is some fresh herbs. So we're going to see if we can find some parsley, some basil, and I think probably some chives. My parsley is very small, but hopefully over the winter it's going to grow back nicely for me. I came over here to grab some chives, but I wanted to show you while I was here. Look at this glorious pineapple sage. It's just my favorite thing this time of year. It's huge with all of these spiky red flowers, and these big bees just love it. Let's see if we can get a peek at one of them. While we're over here looking at the pineapple sage and getting our herbs, I spotted something really exciting that I wanted to show you guys. Look at this gorgeous zucchino rampicante in here on my trellis. So today is the middle of October. I think it's October 15th when I'm filming this. So you guys, I have never had zucchino rampicante live beyond maybe mid-July at the latest. It always gets taken out by something, either squash vine borers or cucumber beetles. And I'm honestly just really shocked by how healthy this plant is. Look at the leaves. They're not very big right now, but they're still just thriving. So I don't know why. I would love to figure out if there's something specific that's helping here, because it's amazing to still be getting a green squash we can eat like zucchini in the middle of October off of these plants that I planted in May. If you guys happen to know if basil helps deter pests from squash plants, let me know, because I may have to try it again in future. But anyway, let's get the rest of those herbs picked, and then we're going to go inside and cook. Now that we've picked everything we need from outside, I'm going to get to slicing up my eggplant. So we are going to make kind of like a caprese salad with tomatoes and basil. No mozzarella this time. We're gonna use ricotta, and I will show you the special way I'm doing ricotta. But we're gonna add oven fried eggplant rounds to this. And we had this last week, I think. You guys, it was so good. We just loved it. My mom was talking about it for days. And I said, we'll have it again before the eggplants are done this year. And so I thought I would share it with you guys. But right now, I'm just slicing my eggplant into rounds. A lot of people will salt their eggplant at this point and let it sit for a while and a lot of the liquid come out. I find that if you have eggplants that don't have really heavily developed seeds in them, that's not really necessary. That's where a lot of the kind of bitter flavor comes from. I can't remember what that chemical is called, but it's more prevalent when you have a much more ripe eggplant. So since I don't really feel the need to let these sit with salt on them for a while, we're just going to go ahead and get our dredging done and get them in the oven to bake. So I have one egg here, and I like to season every layer of my breading. So I'm going to add some salt, some pepper, and some garlic powder. I'm almost out of this. I got to get some more to my egg. And then we're just going to beat it up. I like to add just a little bit of water to my egg once I have it all whipped and whisked up, just to kind of thin it out a little bit and make it a little bit easier to coat my eggplant without just it being kind of a gloopy mess that sticks too much. So I'll show you here in just a second. Just tiny little bit. That's maybe a tablespoon at most. And then I'll whisk that into the egg mixture. Next, we need our breadcrumbs. If you eat wheat, go ahead and use whatever breadcrumbs you want. If you've been around here, you've heard me talk about these. These are the 4C Crumbs gluten-free breadcrumbs. They're so good. And their ingredients are fantastic because if you're familiar with gluten-free at all, normally there's a ton of ingredients. This just has rice flour, raisin juice concentrate, honey, and salt. So you can't get much cleaner than that. I wish I could tell you guys exact ratios on this. I just eyeball about how much I think I'm gonna need. And then the same with my spices. Just do it to taste. You probably have a much better idea of how much pepper and salt and garlic you want compared to me. You know, we all have different palates, and so you just kind of gotta know what you're gonna like. I am adding garlic powder to this as well. And then I am gonna add the rest of my jar because I'm out of it too, of Italian seasoning. If you don't know, Italian seasoning is oregano, basil, marjoram, sage, and there is actually some garlic in here as well too. So we will get that in there and move some things around and just get this all mixed in with our breadcrumbs. Now I will say, it does take a little bit of time, but it's not super labor intensive and it's delicious. So I'm just gonna dunk my eggplant into my egg and water mixture. Make sure we get any excess off, and then into the breadcrumbs. Now, I do find this requires a little bit more effort. Sometimes I have to actually push the breadcrumbs into the eggplant, but that's not a big deal. You are going to get messy hands. That's just the nature of this recipe. And then this is going to go on my baking sheet right here. I am using parchment paper because I find it tends to stick, and I would just rather not have that level of cleanup. So Parchment paper it is for me, but you could just spray your pan really well and that would work too. If you don't like the skin or you really want the eggplant coated really well on all sides, you could always peel your eggplant. We don't mind, and so it's just not a big deal to us if the edges aren't perfectly coated. But I will say the egg and the breadcrumbs don't stick as well to the skin. So just keep that in mind. You can see it does require a little bit of pushing it in. And here you can see where the edges don't coat super well. I'm just going to get the rest of my eggplant all breaded up and we will be ready to pop it in the oven. I think I forgot to mention that we are going to bake these at 375 degrees. But before we pop them in the oven, I want to spritz them with oil. And then we're going to pop these in the oven. I will wait until we flip them partway through to do the other side. So for now, they're going to go in for 15 minutes. We'll let them cook and then we'll pull them out, flip them, and cook them for another 15. While our eggplant is cooking, we're going to make our ricotta. If you guys have been around for a while, you know I am dairy free. And so we're going to make a ricotta substitute. Last week, my mom and I made a sheet tray deconstructed lasagna. I'm sure you guys have seen that. It's gone viral all over the internet. And one of the things it called for was ricotta, but we're dairy free. And so I went looking for dairy free ricotta. The only store-bought dairy free ricotta I could find anywhere close to me was an hour round trip from my house to Whole Foods. And it was like $8 for an 8-ounce carton. No way. Sorry, not going to happen. So I went looking for recipes and I came across tofu ricotta, which I'll be honest with you guys, I was very unsure about. It's so good. So we're making some more. I have a whole block of tofu here. Extra firm tofu is what the recipe called for. And I pushed out some of the liquid, but it said that's not necessary. And it worked well for me, not like really pressing the liquid out. So in this container here, I've got 2 garlic cloves that are already minced up a little bit, the block of tofu, and then to make it taste more like ricotta, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes. These have kind of a cheesy flavor if you don't know. And if you are not dairy free, you could just substitute regular ricotta here and just add the herbs and seasonings that I'm going to add here in a minute and just forget about this portion of it. Just use the ricotta. But we've got our 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes. Now we need 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. The recipe I used called for fresh lemon juice and using the zest. I have this really good organic bottled lemon juice from Costco that I pretty much use for everything. And so that's what I'm using. And it was fine without the lemon zest. We need 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And then it calls for red pepper flakes and dried oregano. I'm just doing this kind of to taste for us. I will link the recipe down below though. And then I am going to add those fresh herbs we picked earlier. The chives, what else did we pick? The parsley and part of the basil. I just really like the green flecks and that herbaceousness that it adds to the ricotta. And I did this last week with it as well, and we loved it this way. So I'm just giving those a little bit of a chop to get a head start. And then we will get it into our little blender here. And like I said, if you can eat dairy, just add the oregano and the crushed red pepper flakes, the fresh herbs, and skip the tofu part unless you're looking for dairy free. But now we'll just blend it all up. So before I blend this anymore, I did forget to add the salt. So we need a teaspoon of salt. Y'all, that's really how easy it is. And look at this. It really does look like ricotta cheese. It tastes like ricotta cheese. It's creamy. When we ate it in that lasagna dish, it was just so good. So we love this stuff, and it's fantastic on this eggplant. So now I just need to slice up a couple of tomatoes, and then we'll just be waiting on our eggplant to finish, and we can assemble our dish. Here's our beautiful eggplant coming out of the oven. You can see how nice and browned it is, and it'll be nice and crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Actually, let's grab a fork and just see how easily that fork goes into our eggplant. Nice and tender. All right, let's assemble our eggplant. I'm calling this like an eggplant caprese, but we're using our faux ricotta instead of mozzarella. But I'm just doing slices of eggplant, smear on a little bit of our cream, of our ricotta. You don't need too much. Slices of tomato. If I had big, beautiful slicers this time of year, that's what I would use, but we don't have huge tomatoes, so we'll just work with what we have. Some basil, and I'm just going to repeat on the platter. Now, let's be real. I would not make it look like this if I was just fixing this for me and my mom and not filming it for YouTube. But this would be a gorgeous side dish for, you know, if you were having a party, wanted to have a beautiful platter with this on it. So good. I can't wait to eat this. For us, I honestly just tend to chop everything into bite-sized pieces and put it in a bowl. That way, oh, got the ricotta on that layer. That way, it's just bite-sized and you can sit down and not have to have knives and stuff. But it's beautiful all put together like this. I think it would be gorgeous in the heat of summer when the tomatoes are really coming in to have different colored tomatoes, you know, like a Cherokee purple and a pineapple tomato, along with just like a classic red beef steak. That would be stunning. But we're working with what we got, and what we have is these beautiful red tomatoes right now. My platter is going to be full. Some more pieces of basil in there. To finish this off, I like some cracked pepper on top. I've not done this before, but I got this jar of finishing salt at Trader Joe's, not Trader Joe's, TJ Maxx. And so I think that will just add a nice little extra element of salt and crunch to it. And then I'm going to drizzle it with balsamic vinegar. This does tend to soak in, and so it's not necessarily the prettiest thing. However, if you had a balsamic glaze, that would probably sit a little more pretty on the dish. And so I know you can get balsamic glaze at Costco. I'm sure you can get it at other places as well. But I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of this on here. So there we have it, our delicious baked fried eggplant caprese salad. Oh, I can't wait to eat some of this. So now that we plated it up all beautifully like we're having a dinner party, I did a little bit of it more like Mom and I would really eat it. I just chopped it up in a bowl into bite-sized pieces. So I'm gonna get a little bite with some of everything, our eggplant, our ricotta, tomatoes, some basil, and a little bit of that balsamic vinegar. And this has become a new favorite of ours. It's a little bit of a shame that it's October. We're gonna have to wait till next summer to eat this regularly, but it's so good. That eggplant is so creamy on the inside, and then it's got that nice crust on the outside. And we get the sweetness and acidity of the tomatoes, the balsamic vinegar, the creaminess of the faux ricotta cheese if you use the recipe I used, or the real ricotta cheese if you just use that. But you guys, this is so good. So I hope you'll give it a try if you still have tomatoes and eggplants coming in from your garden. So I will write this recipe up for you guys and link it down below. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you next time. Bye.